A few years ago, I realised that the friends of my sons could understand the English language, which was bad for me because I no longer had a secret language with my kids. So the kids, they could understand everything I was saying in English, but they were having problems with speaking English, which sowed the seed of an idea in my head. So I started doing games-orientated conversation classes at their school, and their English improved markedly. It benefited the school, it benefited the teachers, but most importantly, the kids absolutely loved it. And so I founded the Conversation Playground. Now, this is the introduction video to the Conversation Playground, and during its production we were thinking about the best way of getting our message across, and naturally we thought the best way would be to make it into a game. So I hope you enjoy the video, and I hope that you get a good understanding of what we're all about.
Welcome to Who Wants to Be an English Heir? To win the money and become an English heir, you have to answer all 10 questions correctly. Today's contestant is Amadip. How are you feeling, Amadip?
I must admit, I'm a little nervous.
The question masters of the day are Amadip's former pupils. Let's begin.
So what's so special about the Conversation Playground?
In one word, games. Children in the Netherlands are being taught English in the classroom at school, and they're being exposed to it on media. So when I ask kids a question in English, they will understand the question, however they will find it difficult to find the words to reply to the question. We believe that games are the best way for kids to practice speaking English. So we've created a series of gamified workshops that complement and build upon what the kids are being taught at school. However, in our workshops, there are no textbooks and there are no lessons in grammar, but we do have lots of kids speaking in English and having a lot of fun.
Correct.
So why did you create the Conversation Playground?
There are actually two reasons. The first is that to get kids speaking confidently and fluently, talking should take up the majority of any language lesson.
And the second reason?
Well, I was born in the United Kingdom to Indian parents, and up to the age of 3 I stayed at home with my mother, and we only spoke in Punjabi. At the age of 3 my father moved the whole family to India, and so I started the Bassa school in India. We came back when I was 5 years old, and I could not speak a word of English, and I was dropped into a school, but I picked it up fast enough, and it wasn't because of the teachers helping me, it wasn't because of textbooks, it wasn't because of grammar lessons, it was because I wanted to go and play on the playground with the other kids.
Correct.
Why is this method of teaching applicable in the Netherlands?
Thanks to the internet, the world has changed. By the time kids are 10 years old now, they've had much more exposure to their English language than their parents had had when they were 10. So when they arrive at school and they get given their first English textbooks, it's below their level and they find it boring. And in some cases, they have a richer vocabulary than their Group 7 or Group 8 teachers. Now, YouTube and gaming, it's a good source of the passive acquisition of the English language, but when the kids then try to formulate sentences, that's where they struggle, and they're not going to get over that struggle until they're actually fully immersed in the English language, and that could happen after they've actually left school and they've started their first job in an international environment.
Correct.
What's so different about what you do?
We speak English 100% of the time. When they enter the classroom, I tell them that they are now entering England and they are not allowed to speak any Dutch whatsoever.
Correct. How are your classrooms different?
All of our teachers are native English speakers, so we know the finer points of using their English language. For example, when to use bring and take, which is a very common mistake made by Dutch adults. The workshop size is limited to 12 so that each kid gets enough personal attention. Our workshops have very little to do with traditional teaching. I like to think of our teachers more as facilitators. They put together a workshop of games, improv, theatre, role play, the sole aim of which is to get the kids speaking in English. And the kids, they will not even feel like they're going to a lesson, but they will be learning English.
Amazing! Can you explain what Dunglish is?
Dunglish is actually the biggest challenge that we have. That's when kids literally translate from Dutch into English. For example, this is what one of the kids asked me once, and I wrote it up on the board, and I asked the kids in the workshop, is this the correct way of saying it? And all of them immediately knew that it was wrong. So then it was a case of just figuring out how to say it correctly and then practicing.
Fantastic!
Why don't you teach grammar?
Well, that could be because I was traumatized by this book when I was at school. Now, in this book we were told to memorize the verbs, and there's 15 different tenses for each verb. And I arrived in France and I was still unable to order bread, purely because I just had not practiced speaking French. And so I think it's much more important for the kids to get fluent and speak in the language, and the grammar and the verbs that will just be picked up automatically.
You're the best!
Why is it better to learn a language using this method?
The biggest hurdle of learning any language is the fear of making mistakes and feeling stupid. My French teacher, she coined it beautifully when she called it l'insécurité linguistique. I'm pretty sure I've said that incorrectly. All the people that I've known in my life that could speak multiple languages, they did not have this insecurity. They would just plough ahead with making mistakes. So what we make absolutely clear in our classroom is that mistakes are expected, they're going to happen, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with making mistakes.
Perfect!
Why do you work in groups?
To get even the shyest kids out of their shells, we work in groups. The games are social, collaborative and interactive, and therefore much more fun. And the main aim of each game is to get speaking. We have a database of games that we can apply in the workshops, and the kids can even suggest their own games, as long as those games are collaborative and involve a lot of speaking.
Wow!
Whew, I'll tell you, this is really nerve-wracking. There's a lot of stress in this contest. Can I have a glass of water, please? Thank you. Okay, so this is the last question.
Will writing also be improved by the workshops?
Just as babies learn to speak first and then later learn to read and write, the fluidity gained by the kids speaking in English will mean that they can write more complex and longer texts when they're writing in English. During the workshop, we do some writing, but it will be in the context of Kahoot quizzes, or if we're doing a role play and they have to memorize their lines.
Incorrect, because I would like to write on Discord.
What do you mean I didn't win? But you know what? Discord is a fantastic idea. I started this program 4 years ago and many kids have already benefited from it. Not only did they improve their English, but they also loved coming to the workshops. So if you're a parent and you're interested in bringing this to your child's school, or if you're a teacher that wants to give an extra challenge to your pupils, then if you're on my website, then click the button below and you can contact me via that. If you're watching on YouTube, then there is a link in the description below to my website and you can contact me from there. So all that remains is for me to say thank you for listening and goodbye, and hope to speak to you soon.